Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Richardson's Rubicon Escape to EverQuest podcast. I am joined by a special guest, Jordan Doll. You may have heard of him before. This is part one in probably a series of 3 explanatory episodes talking about the Greenmist Crusaders tests for Shadow Knights. And it's amazing what I've learned so far already, and I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I do. So, without further ado, I will hand you over to Shady Swashbuckler.
Now then, the gods seem to take delight in running me down, the scurvy dogs. They just labelled me a Shady Swashbuckler. Well, I showed 'em. I call mesel Shady in real life. I'm the real dim Shady, so ha! Welcome to the fireside chat. Keep your purse strings tight and your pocket flaps buttoned shut, me hearties. Let us begin. Here's the amazing Jordan Doll, who's going to talk about the Shadowknight Kukris, the Greenmist Crusader tests. This is followed by a catch-up on where John and Jordan are in-game.
Thanks very much, Shady. It's John Richardson here, host of the Richardson's Rubicon podcast, Escape to EverQuest. And I've also got Jordan Doll here. Hi, Jordan. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm well.
You're well.
I'm recovering from an incident where I had one too many cups of very powerful coffee. It seems like such a good idea early in the morning. And then 2 cups in, you're like, I can see through time.
That's brilliant. And you were telling me about your breakfast as well. Come on, tell me what you had.
I made chilaquiles, which is a Mexican breakfast. It's basically breakfast nachos. You get some tortillas and you fry them till they're kind of crispy, and then you throw eggs and like beans in there and whatever else you have. I had some ham. It was delicious. Hot sauce. Holy moly. Absolutely. A wonderful Mexican breakfast gruel of sorts.
There's a lot to be said for Mexican peasant food, you know?
Absolutely. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Oh, some of the best meals I've ever had have been like just rice and beans. And you're like, why is this so good? What am I doing wrong?
How did they do this?
Yeah. And then I try at home and it's like, this isn't it. This doesn't have the spirit of an old abuelita, somebody's grandmother. That's the magic.
Yeah, that's it.
That and lard.
Lard.
Yeah. You got to use lard.
Excellent. Right then. So the topic of today, we're talking about the Shadowknight Kukris.
Yes.
And like we said, actually, this is not a kukri lesson. This is about the kukris, which are the daggers, the knife.
Yeah.
Knives, aren't they?
The ceremonial weapon of the Iksar Shadowknight. We're going to talk about some of the early quests. We're ultimately going to go up all the way through Greenmist, I hope. Man, I'm struggling with it right now. I'm in the John. I'm in the man.
Why? What's happening?
I'm on the Crusaders test of the Lord, which is the one right before Greenmist.
Yeah.
And you have to collect all these scrolls for some librarian in Mistmore. It's a whole thing. You know, it's always like these ancient books. You must find the lost pages.
Yeah.
And there's a spectral courier in the city of Mist. No problem. I spoke with him over the course of 6 hours. He gave me all 3 of the scrolls that I needed. Then there's a failed crypt raider in Kaesora. You know Kaesora?
I do know Kaesora. I saw your dead body there.
Yes, you did. And I'm sure anybody traveling through there in the past few weeks has seen a good, it looks like I'm storing corpses of mine for the winter in there. It's ridiculous. Luckily, there's enough like quests attached to it that a steady crew of, rezzers comes through there, because the quests are tricky, and it's a tricky dungeon. It's full of trapdoors and all kinds of stuff. And people come into Camp Zalgaz too, because he drops a really cool staff that has a clickable fear.
Yeah.
I
mean, I went in there just a week ago. I think was it about a week ago I mentioned it to you? I think it was thereabouts. So because I was trying to, that's where I should be, is a necro. I shouldn't be in Kaesora.
Oh yeah.
Definitely from 34 onwards, I would reckon. And that's what everyone recommends. But honestly, man, I just got so confused at how to.
It's so confusing.
Yeah.
And there's a whole there's a whole portion that's like there's two kind of enemy factions in the dungeon. There's the skeletons and all the undead, and then there's spiders. And the spiders are like powerful casters for some reason, and some of them can see invis, and like it's a real pain in the ass to navigate. But if you want to jump in there and message me at some point, I'll show you how to get down to Zalgaz, because if you camp him, it's all undead, and he drops this incredible staff and like part of a key for Howling Stones. Anyway, I digress. There's a failed Crypt Raider in there, and it's like a random spawn, and I've been in there for weeks just eating foraged vegetables and bottled water, trying to get this guy to spawn. And in the library is the worst part of it. It's such a pain in the ass, but I will get you, failed Crypt Raider, if you're listening to this.
He is.
We'll find you.
Listening. All the best people listen to this show, you know.
Oh yeah, Shady Swashbuckler's a listener.
Yes, he's a big fan. Well, he introduced us, so you know.
Failed Crypt Raider. But let's go back a little bit to when things weren't quite so.
Step one
of the kind of journey to becoming a Crusader of Greenmist. The first cookery that you get is called the Pawns Cookery, and that one is very easy to acquire. You just give your guild summons to Archduke Zog. That's Zog with an X, the traditional spelling.
Absolutely. All evil people have that name.
Yes. If you just rolled up an Iksar Shadowknight, you take that note to the kind of castle-looking structure in East Cabalus, and boy, now I'm like, is it East Cabalus? I think it's East Cabalus. Yes, it is. And you give him the note, and you'll get this little hooked blade called a Pawns Cookery, and it's not very good, but it's good for level 1. And then you go kill skeletons with it, and scorpions and scarabs in the Field of Bone. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you can probably take on the second one, which is the Test of the Pawn. And this one, you go to Lord Gixzik, who has a surprising lack of X's in his name.
Disappointing, one would say.
Yeah, I know. Seems like he could fit a couple in there. Seems like there's space. They're definitely lying around. And he's going to give you probably the first actual quest. He wants you to kill Sarnak. And the Sarnak, we can talk a little bit about them. The Sarnak are the kind of dragon people that sort of reign. Now, Rome is the better word around Kunark. So there was kind of three big influences in Kunark from the beginning. There was the Iksar, who were created by Khazak Thul as kind of these, hateful little lizard people to crawl around Kunark and do his dark bidding. And then there was the Shisar, who worshipped, unknowable gods, these ancient kind of moon gods and things. And they enslaved the the Iksar, my bad. And for much of kind of the early history, the Iksar were this slave race to the Shisar, who were snake people, like I mentioned, Naga, you might call them. And then eventually they angered their own gods, and the green mist came. Some of the Iksar will tell you that the green mist comes from Khazak Thul himself, was the breath of Thul, was setting his people free. And it was kind of this weird biological weapon that this mist flowed across Kunark, and it killed everything except for the Iksar. Specifically, the Shisar is who it melted them. So the Iksar get free. They become this empire. There was 6 tribes, I believe. Eventually, there was Venral Sathir was the kind of king, the necromancer, who basically united the Iksar, but also was kind of a bastard, like started dabbling in bad necromancy and Shisar magic. And yeah.
What's the difference between good necromancy and bad necromancy?
Well, the good ones bring us our Jabobins and our Kennebers. And our wonderful pets. And they give you twitch magic spells, and they give you some healing abilities. And then the bad stuff, that's how we end up with Zalgaz. We were just talking about this, a horrible little himself, a Sarnak, a reanimated Sarnak necromancer. But basically, Sathir delved too greedily and too deep, and his son, Ryle, the first Shadow Knight, slew him, took him down, trapped his soul in an amulet. If you ever get the keys to like any of the dungeons in Kunark, you'll find out about all of this. You end up getting his soul in an amulet. You actually can fight Sather in, I think, Karnor's castle, and he's interesting. He's like a unique Iksar model with these big crazy hands. It's very strange. But anyway, the reason I bring this all up is because at some point, I think Ryle's son kind of took after his grandfather and was a necromancer, and he created the Iksar were warring with the other at the point that they kind of became the dominant force in Kunark. There was two other factions, which was the Giants and the Dragons. The Trachanon dragons specifically were the ones who wanted to kill the Iksar and eradicate them. So Iksar were warring with the dragons, and the Ring of Scale, I think, or something like that.
Scale,
yeah. And so Ryle's son took after his grandfather and started dabbling that bad Shisar necromancy. He made the Sarnak, which are dragon people. He crossed Iksar with dragons to have kind of their own slave race that they could use as soldiers to fight the dragons. And he also made, I can't remember the name of them, but it was a cross between froglocks and dragons, and they were mounts. They could fly, which is badass. I wish that was in the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sarnak, as you might imagine, break free. They get their own, place in Burning Woods, Chardok, I believe. Yeah. It's their city. And they have this kind of blood feud ongoing with the Iksar, which brings us back to Lord Gixic. He wants you to get him 4 Sarnak whelp heads from the Lake of Ill Omen. There's a mob called a Sarnak hatchling. I can give you a little info on them. They typically spawn north of the Goblin Hunter outpost, just right out front of the Lake of Ill Omen there. They're like, you're going to want to do this at like level 6 to make it trivial, probably. And they will drop occasionally Sarnak whelp head. He's going to give you a pack. You want four heads in the pack, 4 heads in a duffel bag. And then you want to make sure to hit combine, and it will turn into a Sarnak head pack. Basically, you turn that into him with the Pawn's Cookery, and he will give you the Knave's Cookery. Which is a little better, not much. 5 damage, 26 attack delay. Still not getting any stats. You actually don't get any stats on the cookeries until the Knight's Cookery, which gives you a 3-2 intelligence, which is very important for Iksar Shadowknight.
Yeah.
Specifically because Iksar have kind of a low mana pool. I'm sorry, no shade. So we got to bump that intelligence up.
Yeah.
But anyway, now you have your Knave's Cookery, and you get to the first cookery quest that was really a pain in my ass. This one,
and it's called
the Test of Pain. the test of ass pain.
That's right.
You go back to Lord Gixic again. You hail him. You ask him about the test of pain, and he will give you 1 page of a tome. It is no drop. It is lore. He's going to ask you to collect the rest of the pages of the tome. This is going to become a theme. We do a lot of page collecting for the Crusaders. The way that you're going to do this is you have to go through the Field of Bone, past I want to say it's the east. Yeah, so you're going to go, it's actually the south edge. So you come out of Cabalus, you follow the path down to the field, you take a right and exit out the bottom door, the kind of entrance of the field, and then kind of follow the zone line around to the south, and you'll enter the Swamp of No Hope eventually. Swamp of No Hope is the swamp of no joke. This place will destroy you. There's some nasty mobs out there. The level of the monsters is 1 to 50 plus.
Wow.
So
that's quite the range, isn't it?
It's wild. If you cross the wrong tree line without knowing it, you're all of a sudden getting attacked by just leeches you couldn't imagine existed. and like all kinds of froglock casters and like weird skeleton variants that you've never seen before. It can be tricky. So basically you're going to want to head out into the swamp. And let me check here. You can, the Field of Bone. Yeah, like right just south and east of the zone from Field of Bone to the swamp, there is an Iksar outcast camp.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, around that camp, and it's not an undangerous area. Let me
Undangerous. Okay.
let me reiterate that. Make sure you know how and where to run, because if you run in the wrong direction, you are hopelessly lost in the swamp, and that's what they want. What everything that lives there wants, is because then before you know it, you'll be running through the swamp with, doing that diagonal run, trying to lose 6 mobs, and it's a nightmare. And then you'll die in the swamp, and you'll have one of the worst corpse runs of your life. I've done it. Don't do it. Don't be me.
That's a fair warning.
That was the first Kaesora for me. I had a pile of corpses at the zone line to Field of Bone. You want to go to this Iksar outcast camp. You want to find a safe-ish place, probably near the wall. And at nighttime, Froglock Raiders will spawn. They spawn in the daytime. They spawn much more frequently at night. These Froglock Raiders drop pages. It's called a page of a tome. It is lore. And it's very tricky because the pages, if you right click on them, it will tell you which page it is. There's 10 of them.
Right.
And you can get duplicates because they're not, you quite often get duplicates. The way that you can tell that you have a duplicate is if you've already got one in your pack. When you loot it, it'll say that you already have this lore.
I have a lore item.
But some of them aren't lore. So you can just keep looting them. And it's a very tricky quest. Like the first time I thought I did it, I was like, just need to get 10 pages. There don't need to be any 10 specific pages. So I got 10 pages and I tried to combine them in the book, and it didn't work. You also need, which I should mention, these raiders will drop a tome binder, which is the container that you have to combine the 10 pages in. So you got to get the tome binder. You have to camp them until you get all 10 pages, right click on them, check the number of the pages, make sure that you're destroying ones you already have, make sure that you are keeping the ones that you don't have. It's a pain. It's a dangerous area, but if you do it at the right level, you can get pretty good XP from it. The Froglock Raiders themselves are level 11. I would say if you're 12 or 13, this will be close to trivial,
optimal,
but it's also like, I can't stress enough how much I hate the Swamp of No Hope.
Right.
There is no hope.
Aptly named, yeah.
There is no hope. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. So you combine them. Once you get them all, check out the P99 wiki. There's some helpful tips on there. You combine them in the tome, you will get a magically locked tome. You take that back. Once again, you give the magically locked tome and the Knave's Cookery to Lord Gixic, and he will give you the Squire's Cookery, which will bring you to the Crusader's Test of Suffering, which we will cover in the next Cookery Corner.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And now some infotainment. Shady here with hints and tips. This one is from someone calling themselves Velius, who posted on the forums at richardsonsrubicon.com. As we all know, Classic EQ didn't have in-game maps, and this can be discouraging to new players. Use sense heading. This acts as a compass, telling you the direction you are facing. This is a skill you can learn from your class trainer. Put at least 1 point into sense heading. Then hotkey sense heading. Remember which hotkey, and press Alt-O to enter EverQuest's option menu. Go to the Keys tab and click the drop-down and navigate to hotkeys. Find which hotkey number you've set your sense heading into, and click the alternate key setting for that specific hotkey number. Incorporate your movement keys with sense heading, so as you move your character around, you're actively raising the sense heading skill, as well as getting notified of the direction you face. Use the left key, A in my case, so every time I turn left, I am effectively hitting sense heading. Post your own hints and tips on the forum, and if I'm not picking your pockets, I'll be reading them out.
Are you tired of modern online games with their flashy graphics and hand-holding tutorials? Do you long for the days when adventure meant braving the perils of Norath with nothing but your wits and a rusty sword? Well, dust off your spellbook, gird your loins, and prepare for a blast from the past with Project 1999's Classic EverQuest. Dive into the nostalgic world of Classic EverQuest, where the pixels are big, the challenges are bigger, and the loot, Well, the loot is still pretty pixelated, but oh so satisfying. Join thousands of fellow adventurers in this authentic recreation of EverQuest, just as it was in 1999. No microtransactions, no hand-holding, no pay-to-win. Just pure, unadulterated nostalgia. And death. Lots of death. So what are you waiting for? Embark on the ultimate retro gaming experience where your epic quests await. Project 1999. Because sometimes the classics are just better. Visit project1999.com to start your adventure today.
Don't forget, if you want to advertise your guild, get in touch with the podcast. Be on the show. Tell us about your cell.
So what have you been doing in game recently?
Oh boy,
this.
I've been grinding. I got myself to level 48, and now I've become sidetracked with Greenmist stuff, just like I did back in 2000.
Back in the day,
I could be level 60 by now, but I gotta find those pieces. I gotta get to Droga. I gotta find this damn failed crypt raider, man. He's down there. I know he's down there, and I use the pet track. Or do you know about the pet track?
No, what's this?
So basically, if your pet can scan everything in a zone. If you're looking for a specific mob, you can do /pet attack. Let's say we're looking for the failed crypt raider.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could pet attack and then a crypt raider, and it would look for it.
Pet attack failed, and it'll if it's in the zone, it'll say attacking failed crypt raider. Oh, glorious one, or whatever. If it's not in the zone, you won't get anything. So that is, I've been dipping into Kaesora every time I walk past, and just doing a little pet track, and it's never up because it's this active camp. Like, you have to kill at the library and it'll spawn it. It's like a reactive spawn where you kill the placeholder and it spawns the failed crypt raider, but then it despawns.
Right.
And it's such a pain in the ass. And the library is the worst part. It's just crawling with undead, and every once in a while there's one of those.
Okay, Jordan, it's okay.
It's not. And every once in a while there's one of those like raveners or whatever, the mouths. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
And so you can't just use invisibility versus undead the whole time, because every once in a while you'll turn a corner on one of these horrible. Sorry, one of these horrible potatoes with teeth is staring you in the eyes, and then the whole library comes down on you. So it's best to do when there are people in there. And as I mentioned, people are so nice. Although I will say, people get less nice the higher level you get.
Right.
When you're a newbie, everybody's like, yeah, let's help him out. Let's give him some stuff. Let's make sure he's getting what he needs. Yep. And then when you're almost level 50, they're like, how did you end up in this position? How did you do this to yourself? You should know better. And frankly, they're right.
Yeah. Well, they are right. Yeah. So unfortunately, I found that when I was, sitting there in Misty Thicket, all brand new, and just people were ever so helpful. Dropping you a few plat here and there and stuff like that. I've reached the dizzy heights now of 37.
Okay,
and and it's just like you don't get the time of day.
yeah, of course. It's you're out of school now. It's time to stand on your own 2 feet. Yeah, it's tricky. I'm one level away from, at 49, SKs get a whole new slew of spells. I'm one level away, so I'm back in City of Mist. I'm going to grind that out.
Yeah.
And occasionally running back to Cabalus and dipping my head into Kaesora to see if anybody's in there.
What's going on? Yeah.
And if I'm feeling stupid, I'll crawl down to the library and maybe kill a couple. And then it all starts again. So yeah, I'm getting a bit of a reputation within my guild as like, oh god, this guy just dying in Kaesora, asking us all for reses. But they do. Once again, shout out Ancient Blood, hiss. They're the best.
Yeah.
But I also kind of know my way around Kaesora now as a side benefit. So if you need a corpse dragged out of there, hit up Razor Lou, and I will do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also found out that at 49, so the new spells that I get, none of them are incredibly enticing. There's a new darkness, which is always great, but there's a new life tap that's like, so right now my life tap does like 45, like a 45 heal, and it's painful. Like if I'm in a tough fight, I can spam life tap and maybe come out even. But the next one, boy, let me check. It's something like 280. It's a crazy heal. And I looked it up and I was like, how do I get this life tap? And it is a wild, wild, like first generation Kunark era quest where you have to go to the plane of fear. You have to like talk to like druids in dangerous locales where they don't welcome Iksar. It costs 3,000 platinum, John. I need to pour 3,000 platinum into two different NPCs. One of them wants 2,000, one of them wants 1,000, and eventually at the end of this long road I will be able to get this life tap. And I don't even know if it's worth it, because if I just keep grinding, eventually I'll get to level 60 and I get one that's like slightly higher and I can just buy it in the shop.
And it's kind of free.
It's kind of free. Yeah. But the road from level 50 to level 60 is I almost did the same thing where, like, because the last batch of spells you get is at 39. And
that's what I'm looking forward to now on my Necro. I'm looking forward to those ones. Yeah.
You get a new pet for Shadow Knights, but the pet is only sold in Ogok, and the ogres don't like Iksar. So you have to go there and you have to, find somebody to go in and buy it for you. I just went and I found, some level 3 player who was hanging out, and I was like, hey, do you want to make 50 platinum? And they were like, oh my God, yes. And they went in and bought it for me, and I got them killed once, unfortunately. A zombie found us.
Well, you're evil. It's supposed to happen.
Yeah, truly. I promise I didn't plan that. But I almost did the same thing where I was like, I'll skip it. I get another pet that's better at the next level, and I can just buy it at the store. And I'm so glad I didn't. Because the road from 39 to 49 is extensive. And the road from 49 to 60 is basically the road from 1 to 30 all over again.
Yeah.
So I think I might have to get
think you've basically convinced yourself there that you didn't need this spell. So, doesn't take much convincing, because I agree with you.
Yeah. And that's
anything that makes the route easier is got to be done, hasn't it?
I'll have a blast doing it. If I could do a crazy life tap in the middle of some of these fights, not to mention that it's like that would be the biggest nuke that I own. Like 280 damage. Holy moly.
Yeah, definitely. You want that. So
good.
Excellent. There we go. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you. We've done it.
Yay.
Back to you, Shady Swashbuckler.
Well, that was the show that was. I hope you enjoyed it as much as they did. I'm not convinced. I think that John is shortchanging me here. This is meant to be his job. Watch out for the next episode very, very soon. Meanwhile, this young lady wants a word in your shell-like.
Hi there. Why don't you send in your confessions to the Richardson's Rubicon podcast? I can't wait to hear what you've been up to, my cuddly little neckbeard. Visit richardsonsrubicon.com/confessional.